Do you want to quickly explain why or how Ehave fits into the psychedelic industry? Obviously, an industry that's growing, has a lot of eyes growing every day on it. Maybe do you just want to say, how does Ehave fit into the psychedelic industry and why people should care?
Sure. There's a few companies that are like Ehave, MYCO. They just purchased a company called MindLeap. It's a Canadian-based company. They're building out an application to collect data in the psychedelic world for mental health. And the reason why they're doing it is some of the same reasons why we chose to develop it, is that there's an opportunity here for a sector that's going to grow 100-fold, 1,000-fold going forward, not only because of COVID issues, but because of the new way people communicate, which is the new generations of kids that are under 40 years old. They're now going to be trained to see a doctor or a therapist online, and many other practitioners as well. But if you just look at mental health, which before was not treated usually online for many reasons, and most of the time it was an in-person session for many reasons, where this changes, it puts Ehave in a position to be able to work with some of these new ideas that are being developed today, and being that mental health falls back on many different issues. We look at how can we be part of PTSD, brain trauma, Alzheimer's maybe in the future, different types of depressions, anxieties and stress. All of these categories are, at the end of the day, emotional problems and physical problems that are created because of someone's mental health. And if we can collect that data and be part of it at all different levels, all the way from the retreat in, say, Jamaica, all the way to a drug manufacturer of a psychedelic molecule. Those are the broad ranges of where the sector is going. And in between, you'll have a consumer and you'll have a lot of research to try to create products for those consumers. And their data will be very important. Dosages, delivery systems, and as we're able to collect this data and the new waves of companies come in, they're not going to have the data because it's a new sector and field. So they're going to be searching for companies that can supply them with algorithms and other data sets that they can feed into their models and understand what they're going up against. Because it's a highly regulated business, most of the globe is a class 1 drug, just like heroin. And there's only a handful of places in the world that there's legalities that make it legal. So you have this big void of consumers. The majority are not knowledgeable on psychedelics. They never thought about taking psychedelics. They're afraid of psychedelics. It's a different animal than cannabis. Even though some doctors or psychiatrists say you can get a psychedelic effect from smoking cannabis, these drugs are much more powerful and mind-altering. And so because they're dangerous to take in certain situations, you want to be able to control it. And because sometimes you can have a bad trip, it turns out to be real bad publicity to the average consumer that's afraid that they might get a bad trip. And so where I think the future is you're going to have a tug of war between botanical companies that are going to create medicinal products besides psychedelic. And then you're going to have the pure synthetics like MDMA and Compass and some of the other, MAPS are developing these, pharmaceutical drugs going through the FDA trials and thousands of humans. Those are two broad ranges of consumers, and a lot of consumers will go for the synthetic because a doctor and science say it's okay for you, and then you have a whole group of other consumers that won't trust the synthetic nor want a Pfizer or Merck drug in their body, and they're going to go after a botanical, something that's grown in a garden or in a greenhouse or on a piece of wood, and it's been tested and validated for different situations like fungus, viruses, pesticides. Once they're lab tested and they're grown with good growing practice and standards, like anything, like any food, I think you're going to see a good market open up for medicinal functional mushrooms with a psychedelic twist. So you might have somebody who will take a microdose and not ever trip, where they'll take a milligram or a microgram of a mushroom and take it a few times a week under a regimen, but never take enough of a dose to have a psychedelic effect. So just enough to open up the serotonin. These are things that are exciting and where I see the sector going, but we're at the beginning. There are going to be a lot of winners, probably a lot more losers, and I don't think this is a race or a marathon. I think this is just a global phenomenon, and for it to become a global phenomenon, it takes time to take traction, because you have rules and regulations that are not the same around the globe. So where we are today is a lot of companies are working with countries that have regulations, like Canada and the Netherlands and Switzerland, and like Johns Hopkins University have some different licenses here with the DEA. But in the future, I feel that you're going to see other companies pop up in Oakland or Denver or Oregon, Washington, D.C., where they're decriminalizing some of these compounds. And you're going to see entrepreneurs that are going to kick in and try to develop businesses. And this is where I want to be with Ehave, offering them a service and a technology. So as they start off with limited capital and limited data, as they grow their widget and consumer base, they'll be using Ehave's data collection technology, and then we'll just be able to continuously build up new data sets going forward. So that's what's exciting. We're at the beginning. I don't even think the boats have left dock yet.
Yeah, you touch on so much. It's great. You pull from so many different areas, different countries, different regulations, and really psychedelics versus cannabis. We can even have a chat on that going forward. But the one part that really sticks out to me about Ehave, and you talk about regulations and regulatory bodies, and hey, if you want to be able to push your company to the next step, if you want to be able to make sure you have that seal of approval, you're going to need to have data that supports that, and whatever else data collection that obviously will help you. So I think Ehave is kind of positioned extremely well for the growth of medical kind of psychedelics as we go forward. And I think that was a great kind of segment that you said. I think this was awesome in terms of intro. We chatted for a while. Is there anything about your background that you think we missed or you want to say before we close things off?
No, I think we covered a lot of my past, my reasons why I've taken the position here at Ehave, and the direction I'm looking to take Ehave in the next few years.
Awesome. Well, I think this was good. We'll leave it here, letting people know if there's any questions that they want to say. Awesome. Make sure drop them below. First intro video to Ben, he's taken over. If you want any stories of his background or how he got involved in the industry, then for sure, make sure you ask. And also, clearly the guy has a crazy background. If you've got questions about how to take companies public and that kind of insight, I'm sure we'll do little snippets.
Thanks, Jason. Stay safe up there in Canada, and we'll chat shortly.